Recently I had an issue with my quite retro mountain bike. Basically the chain, I suspect, has been stretched, but we'll investigate that further. There's a couple of little alarming signs I've had. You can see it's not fitting very well around the large chain ring, and it did start to slip on the rear sprocket. It was more noticeable in the higher gear at the back, and then it slowly progressed to the higher gear. So I've got quite a few parts I'm going to do simultaneously. I'm going to replace the chain rings on the front, the crankset, and we're going to gear this bike up. It's currently got a 46 teeth chain ring on the front, so we're going to go up to a 50. So we'll see how this goes, and hopefully we'll be able to reuse the front derailleur and the rear derailleur, and all will work well. This is uncharted territory, so we'll see what it gives. I'm going to remove the pedals first of all. You can use a pedal spanner, but I've never had any call for them. So Shimano kindly put the direction on each pedal so we don't get confused, which is quite easily done because one's anti-clockwise thread and one's clockwise thread, so we'll get this undone. Excuse the noise of the bin men. And on to the other side. So the next stage is here. We need to get a small screwdriver to remove this little cover. Out it comes. So I've now got 14mm bolt to remove. Insert the crank removal tool. It's quite delicate to thread, just be patient with it and you'll get it threaded, don't force it. So now I've got that inserted, we'll just snug it up with a spanner. There will be a bit of dirt in it, so may need a clean. And then we'll proceed to removal. Tighten that in. And what I'm going to do first before I start is I'm just going to remove the chain. You can see the chain here. I'm just going to take that off. It's a bit greasy, so I'm not going to touch it with my fingers. I'm going to use a spanner and cheat. So I'm just going to gingerly go with a spanner. If it feels a bit too tight, so I've got reached a tight spot, I'm going to get a rubber hammer and give that a tap, just a gentle tap, just to free it off. Could use a steel hammer with a block of wood, just to cushion the blow to the crank arm. So I'll give that a tap with a hammer. See if we can yield another turn. Yeah, it's moving. This is the hammer I'm using. It's not going to do any damage to this crankset. The object of it is to just tap it, turn it, tap it, turn it. Just gentle little taps will help it take some force off of this tool. Things have definitely eased now. You can feel the difference in the spanner. If it's easy, carry on. If it's difficult, maybe give it a little tap just to take the strain. So we'll remove this. and I think we'll get something to cut the chain. I don't really want to try and take it apart. I'm going to use an angle grinder with a steel disc in to cut it. You could just use an hacksaw or a link splitter or whatever you have. So we'll now put the used 50/39 crankset on. We'll just have a little test fit, see how it goes in relation to the derailleur. Well, as it happens, it surprised me. There are a couple of things to consider when you're doing a gearing up exercise like this. What you have to consider is the distance between the frame there and there. You need to have a little bit of leeway to facilitate an increase in gearing. So we'll refit that, and then we'll get back to the chain. We want to see. I'm certainly curious to see how much longer the other chain is compared to the newer chain. So we've got the crankset on. We'll just torque down this bolt here. Can actually hold on to the pedal or the arm just to torque it down. We don't want this working its way loose while we're mid-journey. That should do it. Now I've got one side done. I can fit the other crank arm off camera. It's the same procedure as the crankset. I'll remove the old chain and install the new chain. I've aligned the two chains up for reference, just so you can see as we work our way down the chain, we can see the discrepancies between the old chain and the new chain. And we're definitely half a link out for most of the chain. And as we get nearer the end of the chain, it almost, it definitely is more than half a link over the entire chain. So I'm not surprised it was jumping on the cassette. So I've now got the chain on. There's a little joining link here. It seems to be the same deal either way. So just basically pulling of the chain will lock it in place. So I'll now proceed to get it on the sprockets. We're good at the back. Just be careful to thread it through there and follow the exact same route. So good stamp down on the pedals has tightened the link. Next thing to do is put the other crank arm on, and then we'll go through the gears and check all's good. So what I've done, because I don't have one of these fancy bike stands, is I've put a piece of carpet under the handlebars and I've flipped the bike. And I've just been through all the gears. Now, because I've meddled with the gear ratios, the two gears to watch are the two largest ones, both on the chain ring and at the rear. So you can see the derailleurs at a good angle now. I'm quite pleased with that. I do have a little bit of tweaking to do. The front derailleur needs a little adjustment, as I had to help that one onto the top gear, and I think the indexing's been thrown, but I've got a few little tweaks to do which I'm going to do off camera. Well, I've just been on for a little tiny spin on the bike. I've got it going through the gears, everything beautiful. Just one little problem. I think my Freewheel is in need of replacing. It's still jumping. Not as bad as it was, but still doing so. Still jumping, so I'll have to replace that. Well, it's been a couple of days now. I had to order a new Freewheel. What I did is I just took the number off there and it's a Shimano SIS. Now that number proved to be an obsolete one. They were only used specimens, and I really wanted a new one, so I purchased this. It's a different number, but it should do the job. This is a 6-speed of the same ratio, 14 to 28 tooth. So we're going to swap this. I didn't buy the tool because I'm only really going to use it once, I think. There is a tool what you can release these freewheels with, but there is a little fiddle I'm going to show you to do it, but it is destructive. But I have no intention of using this freewheel cassette anymore. So what we basically do, take a punch and work your way around in a clockwise direction. Unscrew this. That was slightly loose because I did give it a test tap before I started filming, and then everything should just lift off. Plenty of bearings dropping all over the place. I'm going to try and salvage some of them because you never know if you need a bearing. Could save a trip to the shops. And we'll move on to the next stage. I'm going to get a cloth and give everything a good clean up. Bits will fall out all over the place. There's a few rings, various parts, spacers, shims, what have you, pawls. Everything's falling apart, which is fine. So obviously the freewheel is designed to lock on with every pedal stroke, so that's clockwise in order to propel the back wheel round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some grips and go anti-clockwise. Well, I've now found the appropriate pipe grips, so we'll see how this fares. Oh, very well. Well, I got the pipe grips on. Couldn't do it with the leverage of the grips alone, so I needed a scaffold bar on the end. So that's one hack tested. It appears to be working. It'd be nice if we can wind this off all the way and keep the spindle in place. And it looks like we can. That was one thing I wondered about. So it's time to fit the new one. That should be pretty straightforward, I hope. Oops. Just spin on. Excellent. So that tip did work, but it was a bit more trouble than I was led to believe. We've got the new crankset on, and the tension of the chain on the first ride will nip it up. So we'll refit that to the bike. Well, I've been on a short journey now. I've reassembled everything. The Shimano cassette cost in the region of £14 delivered from a well-known auction site, and a replacement chain around £7. So I consider that a good budget repair. So on the whole, I'm well chuffed. I think I've learnt a little lesson. As probably worth replacing a chain every year to save replacing the cassette. But many thanks for watching, and why not subscribe to learn of more repair possibilities, as I've now got a bicycle where I can confidently apply the power, which isn't jumping all over the place and dangerous to ride.